Welcome to the Pub Date Podcast, the show where two book broads discuss what should happen before, during, and after your book publication date. Brought to you by Broad Book Group, with your hosts Vanessa Campos and Jen Dorsey.
Hello, and welcome to the last episode of the Pub Date Podcast of 2022. I am down a book broad, but that's okay because I am here with two guests, not one, but two. And these two guests are pretty freaking cool. So, if you've been following us over the last few weeks, you've probably seen that at Broad Book Group, we're officially releasing a publishing side. So we're going traditional publishing. We're going back to our roots, and we're not looking to, because these things have been in the works for a few months. We've been working in the background to get these things going, but we are officially launching Broad Book Press in 2023. Now, this is really exciting for me to be able to have not just an author, or writer, but also a designer on today because, these two people are very special to both me and Jen. They are actually one of the catalysts as to how we ended up being Broad Book Group to begin with. Today on the show, we have author John Trent, who is a former two-time Nevada Sports Writer of the Year, lives in Reno, Nevada, with his ultra running family. And he is a past president of the Western States Endurance Run and member of the Western States Board of Trustees since 2004. He's been involved in ultra running and as an organizer, volunteer, and journalist covering the sport since 1987. Hi, John.
Good morning, Vanessa. Good to see you.
Good to see you too. So in addition to John, we have Vicky. Miss Vicky Vaughn Shea is the owner of Ponderosa Pine in Reno. She is passionate about working with publishers like us, editorial teams, and authors to create book designs that best complement a topic. So over the years, she's designed covers and interiors for hundreds of books, and we're so lucky to have her on as a designer for not one, but two of John's books. So just to give you guys a little bit of a primer, his first book is Running Toward Life, Finding Community and Wisdom in the Distances We Run, which is scheduled to release in spring of 2023. And his second book is Second Sunrise, 5 Decades of History at the Western States Endurance Run, scheduled to release in fall of 2023. Welcome, Vicky.
Thank you. Nice to see you, Vanessa.
I know it's like we just had our meeting and we've been kind of like in the trenches figuring all this stuff out. But I wanted to have you guys on to talk a little bit more about the books. And so I will let you guys pick which book. I mean, you guys don't have to tell me if you have a favorite, which book you guys want to kind of introduce the audience to.
Yeah, they're both, you love them equally, right? Whenever you write books, Running Toward Life, I think of as it's a highly personal book for me. It's a collection of essays and remembrances and recollections of people, places, and things that I've encountered in my running life, and why they've really had a profound influence on me. I think maybe the theme that runs through that is we strive to be better, and the way we become better is through good people that we meet, and they're the example that they set. And in the sport of ultra running, it's just chock full of people like that. And so that's kind of like, the theme that runs through that, and, how I've met these people and how they've helped me become a better person and try to get involved in community and give back just through their examples. And then, Second Sunrise is more of a historical look at a race that has a true heartbeat and soul. And so as some of the listeners may know, Western States, the 100-miler is, perhaps the most well-known 100-miler in the world. It's certainly one of the oldest and one of the most prestigious. And there's just this incredible soul that runs through it of people that have run the race, the people that founded it and make it and have helped make it happen. And then how ultimately it's a transformative experience that once you run the race, you're never quite the same again in a good way. And so that's another book that I think reminds us about, how we can be better, and how a bunch of people with a common vision, created this thing to help people become better.
We were lucky. Both Vicky and I were able to join you at Western State's lottery event earlier this month, and the sense of community and togetherness that everyone has. It was just kind of a really exciting and interesting thing to watch and be there. I had watched it on YouTube last year, but it was nothing in comparison to being right then and there. Vicky, how did you get involved in running, and how did you guys meet?
So I started with marathons. Like when I was 40, my niece challenged me to run a marathon, and I'm like, what? She barely runs. And I got hooked, and I started running marathons, and then I got tired of trying to beat times every time I ran. And I had always gravitated to the trail. So I'd ran quite a few of like the local small trail races, and it was always fun. And as I started to run more trail and more on Peavine and up at Tahoe, I ended up running with the Striders, which is John's running group. And everybody is amazing. Like it's a different community, the trail running group. And yeah, I got sucked in, and then I started running trail with John on some of our long runs, and I would get the best stories. So he's always encouraging everyone and writing such good. I mean, even his Facebook page, I want to cry half the time I read his stuff. So, and they're short. And then I read Running Towards Life because we had the early release copies, and it was awesome. I read it in 24 hours, and I never read that fast. I've been in many book clubs. You can ask all my friends. And I finished it in 24 hours because it was just a great read and fun. And yeah.
Well, that's wonderful. I do agree. I mean, John, you have such a way of putting words together. It's just like, as the marketing person on both of these projects, I was like, how am I going to top this? How do I make this better for the audience to want to buy this book, to want to read more about it? And it's really hard, which is why I'm like, I'm just going to enlist you in helping write some of the marketing content.
Yeah, I enjoy. I think running has given me an opportunity to everybody kind of lays their soul bare, through that activity, and you really see who they are. And I've been lucky throughout my professional life. I've been a writer in one form or another, whether it's newspapers, magazines, as a communications professional. And so you see these things happen, and then you write about them, and you put them down in story form, and thankfully, as people read these stories, they resonate with them, and so you see people at their lowest point, their highest point, their most vulnerable point, and when you share that, it resonates with folks, and it's nice. I've always felt like I wanted to be a storyteller, and I think ultra running in particular has provided the ultimate human canvas that you can present to people.
Yeah, I mean, if anybody needs proof of that specific and just making this story appeal to people who aren't even interested in ultra running, jogging, or as me and my roommates in college used to call it, jawogging over to the bar. We had some really good reviews earlier on, and from BookLife, they say even the most unathletic will want to double knot their shoelaces and hit the trails. And I haven't hit the trails in a very long time, so it's more like a pace, like a really slow pace. But I've been doing that and just kind of enjoying my outside time. And I've always enjoyed the self-reflection that is running for me specifically, or in this case, jogging, not to the bar though. So I want to dig in a little bit more about the race, because I feel like that is, we got to meet the founders of the race. They were really so kind in having us there and giving us a space to help promote the books and kind of get the word out. But, they said something to me that they would never have trusted anybody else to write the book other than you. And I thought that was just like some of the kindest things I've ever heard about, an author from the founder of something when, they're sharing the stories. As you guys were putting together this coffee table book, because Second Sunrise is a coffee table book, it's a hardcover, full picture, 192 pages, 180 plus photography, end sheets, and all of this. It's a really amazing And here comes Vicky. So if you're watching this, you get a peek at it. So it's Second Sunrise. It's this huge coffee table book. It's beautiful. You know, a lot of people were saying, you know, they were really surprised that this didn't already exist, you know, that this wasn't out there. So as you guys are putting this stuff together, tell me, you know, what surprised you about learning about the history and what kind of came up and got you thinking like, yes, this is the right thing to do.
Vicky, do you want to go first or do you want me to?
I think, well, I'll go first, but because John has the bigger story to all of this, since he knows it so well. John and I were both pacing in 2015 at Western States. He was pacing his daughter and I was pacing our friend Mike Holmes, and we kept seeing each other because they were about the same cutoff. And Mike was really far behind. He barely made it through the cutoff that I was starting with him. And he was exhausted and his whole crew didn't think he would make it. He got kicked out of the aid station or they would have pulled him out. And so we're starting out and he was talking about, don't listen to them. I'm going to finish this race. Like, I can do this. And I'm like, okay. And my only responsibility was to I wrote on my hand every, how many miles between each aid station. And then I forgot to turn on my watch. So Mike would say, how much further? I'm like, oh, we're getting closer, because there was like nothing I could say. And so we got to the next aid station after Forest Hill and he's like, I need to take a nap. And they said, you have 7 minutes. And he's like, yeah, I just need to take a nap. I'm going to sit down, wake me up when I have to go. And he literally sat down and fell asleep for 5 minutes. And they said, you got to get him out of here. And I get him up and he takes off running. And he ends up finishing 45 minutes before cutoff time. And it was the most incredible experience ever. And then we were waiting for John's daughter to come through and we're all waiting at the bottom of the hill before they hit the track. And I'm in flip-flops and I had a knee injury. And so I was limping behind Mike the whole way and he didn't know. So I'm running up the hill waiting for Katie because there's only 10 minutes left. And all of a sudden she comes around the corner with 10 people around her. And they're all, like 20 people, and they're all running down the hill. And I hear her say to John, I'm going to make it, Dad. And I almost started busting into tears and I'm in flip-flops and she finishes with, John will be able to tell you how many minutes left, like 3 minutes left. And then the whole stadium, the whole track field lights up and everybody's excited and screaming. And Goonhild. She comes on the track with like 50 seconds left to finish and everybody's running on the track with her along the inside and screaming, and she finishes with 3 seconds left. It was the best sporting event I've ever seen. And that's where the idea for a coffee table book started to come into fruition. But it took a couple years before John and I started talking about it. So that was my big story.
Yeah, and
wow.
Just to add to that quickly, Vanessa, so without Vicky's encouragement, this book would have never been written, because Vicky just, believed that the story needed to be told, and after experiencing something like that, I think it had a real influence on her, because I'll always remember, Mike Holmes and my daughter running along in front of us. We were pacing them, Vicky and I just kind of hanging out behind them, beautiful moonlit night, the American River's down below us, and just thinking, what a great experience. Here's my daughter running with this guy. They're having a great time chatting away. Vicky and I are chatting away, and we got them to the finish. And I think the larger value of Second Sunrise is just 2015 alone was one of those watershed moments for the race, where the old Goonhild was like the oldest finisher on the female side ever. And she's a grandma and she finishes just barely. And my daughter, Katie, was 22 years old at the time. She finished with 3 minutes to spare. So you had the youngest finisher in the race that year and the oldest finisher in the race that year finishing within 3 minutes. And the place just went berserk. People were just, there were hundreds of people there. It was just pandemonium. And it spoke to like what the spirit of the race is all about. Young, old, everybody finds a place at Western States. And what the book does is it kind of, I think, it brings out these moments. I describe in the book not only just what was happening there, but it was interesting with Goonhild's finish. A guy named Rob Krar had won the race. Rob was a great runner. He'd finished 15 hours before Goonhild had. And And
Wow.
he was there in shorts and flip-flops and his straw cowboy hat. And he ran in the last mile with Gunhild, encouraging her. And I've interviewed Rob a few times over the years. I've written about the race. And so I include some of my interview, when I've talked to Rob about why'd you do that? Why as the champion, you'd run 100 miles, you're probably pretty beaten up. Why did you jump in with this grandma and help her to the finish? So the book, I think, brings to life these sort of watershed moments throughout the history of the book, which hopefully people will enjoy.
That's amazing. And so to put this into context for those who aren't familiar with the race, you guys kept mentioning 3 minutes, 10 minutes. Out of what's the timeline here?
Yeah, so it's the race has a absolute 30-hour time limit. So you have to finish in 29, 59, 59
Wow.
in order to be an official finisher. And if you don't, you don't get a belt buckle. You aren't considered a part of the race's history. You're not an official finisher. So that's why and what's interesting about Western States, again, some of these nuggets that you find out, Western States was perhaps pretty sure the first race to ever kind of come up with this 30-hour time limit. And why that's important is in the 1970s, when Western States did that, by instituting that time limit, it opened the race up to a wide range of abilities and backgrounds. You didn't have to be an incredible athlete to finish it anymore. Before the race originally had a 24-hour time limit, which you have to run pretty fast. 30 hours means you could be a 71 or 70-year-old grandmother and still have a chance of finishing it. So just by that very fact, more than 40 years ago, Western States opened its doors to everybody by having this 30-hour time limit.
That really speaks to the community. And again, back to the spirit of the race and really bringing people together.
Yeah, totally. I mean, that's why the race has always been, it's always kind of considered in itself the Western States family, because it's young people, it's old people, it's middle-aged people, it's great athletes, it's horrible athletes. Everybody has a chance of getting to the finish there.
So tell me a little bit about the title itself, Second Sunrise.
Yeah, that's always been one that's stuck with me. It's a term in ultra running that's used often. It mainly, for people who take it literally, what it mainly applies to is those that most 100-mile races start super early in the morning to maximize the amount of daylight that the runners can have. So you'll start at sunrise, you'll be out there, and if you're out there for 30 hours, you'll see a second sunrise, obviously. I took that metaphorically, though, to mean more than that. What it represents for the book and for the race is that Western States, if you're a second sunrise runner, you still have a shot. You still have a chance of finishing. Western States has had a number of challenges throughout its history where sometimes the race, it might not have happened, especially in those early years. If the people didn't believe in it and loved it, it would have died out. There's always this notion of a second sunrise that the race founders and the people who've organized it and the people who participated in it, that you're always striving to see, that there's always something more out there for everybody. So I think metaphorically, it applies to all runners, to all people, that, hopefully we better, always be striving to find that second sunrise. And that's why I thought it was pretty appropriate for the book title.
I'm telling you guys, this is one day going to be a Hulu movie. It's going to happen. You get the chills when you hear these stories and just like barely making it and what happens during the trail. It's really amazing. So Vicky, what was something that you did not know about the race as you're doing this research and putting together this book?
I didn't know most of it.
All of it.
I heard stories. Yeah, I heard a lot of stories from John on the trail, and I had volunteered throughout the years. But until I paced Mike, I really didn't understand the race, and the whole crew. I mean, they have, most people have like 5 people who are crewing them, and they're with them the entire race, showing up everywhere that they need them. And that was just that community and that grassroots of let's all cheer on. And even in our community here in Reno, a lot of times people will it's like whoever gets chosen, then everybody's behind them. So people are offering to run with them, to train with them, to be part of their crew. It's just pretty amazing. So I've learned a lot just being around John, and it's going to be a great book. I'm excited. I can't wait to read the whole thing.
Oh yeah, no. We did get a lot of people looking through the pages that you had printed out, the mock pages. And I loved when everyone's face lit up when you told them about the end pages and the surprise. Tell us about that.
Yeah, the end sheets of the book, which we have 8. I can show you, well, for those who can see, there's only one on this one, but there'll be 8 pages, and it has the year and the date that everyone finished in the order they finished. So that'll go on all the end sheets. So it'll go through 2022, and then we'll reprint in 5 years and put everybody else's name in it.
Even more of an encouragement to start training, lace up those shoes, and get out there on the trail and
we're gonna get you, Vanessa. We're gonna get you. You're gonna be.
Yes, we are.
This is a gateway. We've got you sort of captured at the moment. Pretty soon, you're gonna be running the race yourself.
I know. I'm actually really excited for next year's lottery, and I'm really, really excited to get up there at the finish race and kind of help out, and during the actual race, which is in June. And I'm planning on bringing all of my bug repellents. I'll probably be the one like fully clothed. But it is something that has been very, very exciting for us, and both when Jen's not here, I can tell you right now that she and I are both super excited about bringing this to not just the community of runners, but also to everyone who is just thinking about running, loves community, loves to read good stories, because this is a really good story. It's an amazing story. And then John, your book is really a great read, and to be able to get some more insight into this community, and like BookLife says, even the most unathletic here will double knot their shoes. I gotta find my running shoes, the good ones. All right, so for everyone who's listening, we really appreciate you guys joining us for the story. We hope that you come onto the website. We have a new website for this specific traditional publishing. It is broadbookpress.com. We'll have it in the show link, so you can go out and check out both of these books and learn more about John, learn more about Vicky, and all of the other really cool books that she puts together. But yeah, I'm so excited to have you guys on again. I know that if you are interested in learning more about John and the book, we're going to plan to have a little bit of a mini series podcast with John hosting, and him bringing up more stories that we couldn't fit in a 6x9 book or in the hardcover book. Thank you so much for joining us, both of you. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Vanessa.
Yeah.
And thank you so much to Paul Roberts of OC Talk Radio for producing this episode, and for our executive producer, Emily Carpenter Pulskamp of Little Red Communications. Until next time.
We hope that you gained some valuable insights into the world of book publishing. Head over to broadbookgroup.com to learn more about us and all our services. And be sure to check out all our social media at Broad Book Group. Until then, keep publishing.